Hey gang, welcome to this week's High Value Publishing session. My name's Eric Schoenfeld with Nearview Media, and I'm thrilled we're starting these back up again. We had a couple of weeks where we had some things off there, and we're glad to get back into them here going full time. And I was just recently at the Alliance of Area Business Publishers Friday and Saturday, and met tons of great publishers over there again, hung out with some good friends, and did a few sessions. But very excited to be getting into this one here. We're going to talk about Facebook Business Manager and how to set it up the right way for publishers. Now, there's a ton in Facebook that we're not going to be able to get to because this is a short session, but we're going to get in here and I want to show you some things I think most publishers are not doing and are going to really help you here. Before we kick off though, just a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording this session, so it will be available on my website. At nearviewmedia.com, typically by Thursday. Yep, there we go. As well as all of our other past sessions are available there. Any links that are mentioned during this session will be available when the recording is posted to the website. This is also available as a podcast, whether your favorite platform's Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever. You can probably find us on that platform and be sure to subscribe to that. Finally, if you have any questions at all today or questions about Facebook in general, you can feel free to post those into the live chat here on Zoom. We're monitoring that. Or if you're watching this on demand, you can always post those questions to me. Just go to nearviewmedia.com and there's a email form or a chat box. You can submit it to me there and be glad to answer any questions you might happen to have. I do want to give a shout out to two of my favorite partners out there. What's New in Publishing. This is a great publication for all publishers. Highly recommend that you go check that out. It's what I subscribe to. I read it all the time. And then Niche Media. If you haven't been to a Niche Media event for publishers, I strongly recommend it. Just really good stuff there. Great people, great content. And that's run by a very good friend of mine, Ryan Dorn, over there. All right. So let's talk Facebook Business Manager. Now, you may be also familiar with something called the Meta Business Suite. So obviously, Facebook kind of rebranded as Meta as a whole, with Facebook being a product. And so they're trying to position Meta Business Suite as something where you can manage all your products that are owned by Meta. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, everything will be rolled underneath that. You can do that already to a degree within Facebook Business Manager, but I just wanted to show you here. I'm going to start with Facebook Business Manager, and I'll tell you about Meta Business Suite here in a second, the differences. When you first log into Business Manager, just go to business.facebook.com. If you're already in there, it'll load up your homepage, look something like this, and then you can go ahead and you can switch to other accounts if you want. If you're not already signed up for it, you can go through that. I'm not going to go through the process of how to set up a Business Manager account today because I just don't have the time to walk you through that. I will give you one hint, however. When you're setting up Facebook Business Manager and you're inviting people to it, you do not need to invite them using their Facebook login email. You can actually send it to the business Facebook email. And then when it comes to that, you can then log in using your personal one, but now you're connected to the Facebook Business Manager using your business email. This has been really handy for me because I work with a lot of my clients. And I don't want all this information going into my personal Facebook email, or my personal email that I use for my Facebook account. So I just give them Eric at Nearview Media. They invite me into their account. I accept it. I log in using my personal email, but I'm now connected via my business email. So just a little hint for you there on that. When you log in, let's talk about the difference between Facebook Business Manager and Meta Business Suite. When you first logged in, you'll see it does say Meta up here on the left, but that doesn't mean you're in the Meta Business Suite. You are still in the Facebook Business Manager. Most of you will be switched over automatically to Meta Business Suite. If you haven't been and you need to get there, you can simply do that by clicking the little hamburger menu in the upper right here, and you can do that from anywhere within the Facebook Business Manager. And then you can click Meta Business Suite. When you do that, it'll swap over to Meta Business Suite. Now, Meta Business Suite is just kind of the next iteration of Facebook Business Manager. And there's some good stuff in there. I will tell you right now, though, I still don't think it's ready for prime time. Even though they rolled it out a couple of years ago, there's still a lot of features that are missing in Meta Business Suite that I'm finding myself having to constantly go back to Facebook Business Manager to deal with. So when you do switch over to Meta Business Suite, it's going to look like this. This is when you first come into Meta Business Suite. And if you want to swap back, it's actually not that difficult to do. You just go down here to the Help section on the left-hand side of the screen. And when you click that, you'll see an option to switch to Business Manager. And when you do that, it's going to pop open a little window. It's going to say, hey, why do you want to leave? Why don't you like Meta Business Suite? And you just put in a little, garbage answer, whatever you want, something quick. Boom, submit that, you're done. It'll switch you back to the normal Business Manager. But that's the difference. You can see it says Meta Business Suite if you're looking in Meta Business Suite. If you're not, you're here. Now you're in Facebook Business Manager. So if it just says Meta, it's Facebook Business Manager. If it's Meta Business Suite, you're in the Meta Business Suite. So I always switch back right now to Facebook Business Manager because I find it's more comprehensive. I can do more in it. And in Meta Business Suite, I'm having to switch back and forth a lot. It's going to get there. It will get there. Eventually, we're doing everything through Meta Business Suite, but just a little heads up for you on that. All right. That's enough of the difference between the two. I'm not going to go much into that. I want to start talking about how to set up Facebook Business Manager best for a publication, which isn't always the same as other brands. All right, we're going to start with the business settings. The first thing we're going to do is down here in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see that little gear icon, little cog. You click that and you'll go into the business settings. So I've blocked out all the IDs of everything up here. I don't want anybody seeing that, but I want to show you how this is set up because I've been working with a couple publishers here. I'll swap back and forth between them to show you how things should be set up. In your business settings, first thing you're going to have is people. These are all the people who should be using any assets within your Facebook and even Instagram properties or your ad accounts. All those people should be listed here. I wanted to bring this on because Todd, I don't want to let him know that we are waiting for him to have two-factor authentication set up, so he cannot access Business Suite, Facebook Business Manager until he's got two-factor. I'll show you how to do that. I strongly recommend you do turn on two-factor authentication for Facebook Business Manager. And every individual manages their own. It's not like there's one phone number or one place you have to validate through. Every individual here has their own two-factor authentication set up. So within the people section, this is one view. This should be all the people who have access to everything, and then you can see all the assets that they're assigned to. So it could be Facebook pages, could be Instagram accounts, could be ad accounts, could be Facebook pixels, all of the assets that are in there. And you can set up different permissions for each of these assets. I'm not going to go real deep into that. You're probably already used to that. I did want to talk a little bit about, this is two-factor authentication. Going down here, if you scroll further down on the left-hand side, you go to Business Info. You scroll down, there's this thing called Business Options. And Business Options, two-factor authentication. So I really recommend you turn two-factor authentication on for everyone. I'll tell you why here in a minute. You want to do everyone and not just admins. You really want anybody who's working on your Facebook page or working on your Instagram account or doing anything within Facebook Business Manager to have to use two-factor authentication. That can be done as a code within the Facebook app, or it can be done through text message as well. I typically recommend setting up text message. It just seems to be easier for most folks. So that's part of the user stuff. The second piece over here, and again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, is the partners. So if you're working with a third party, if you've got an agency who's doing things on your behalf, you will assign them as a partner, and you can assign assets to that partner that they can use out of your account. That allows them to use those assets on behalf. Or maybe you're doing this where you're actually managing a Facebook page or ad account for one of your clients. I see a lot of publishers who do this. They actually manage the Facebook and Instagram and ad accounts for their clients. You can also request assets from here. So this is the partners. I strongly recommend you look at the people and you look at the partners and you look at the system users. I'll tell you what those are here in a second. And you make sure, look at them regularly. Make sure you've removed people who are no longer there or shouldn't be there, or partners that shouldn't be there, or partner assets that you're no longer managing if you're doing that as an advertising basis. This is something I see a lot of publishers, they just don't bother going and clean this up. I strongly recommend that you do check this on a regular basis and clean it up maybe once a month or minimum once a quarter. Check this stuff out. System users, those are apps and other kinds of programs that have access to any aspect within your Facebook and Instagram environment. It could be an application going through the API that can pull leads out or submit conversions or things like that. But these are programs. So these are people on your team that you want to have direct access to any kinds of assets, partners that may be helping you with ads or helping you with management, or that you may be managing, and system users. So just make sure you check these on a regular basis, keep them updated. All right, let's talk about Facebook pages. So I've worked with a lot of publishers, not all of them, but a lot of publishers where they actually have a separate Facebook Business Manager account for each brand. I don't recommend that unless there's a specific reason that you want to keep certain elements segmented. For example, one media company I work with, they have their owned media, and then they kind of have their client managed, where they manage it for clients. I could see having two separate business manager accounts for that situation. But for most publishers, when you've got multiple publications, for example, in here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we've got 8 different Facebook pages, all part of this one organization. You only need one business manager account, and you want to have all of your assets underneath this one Facebook business manager account. So you can add them in, you can migrate ones in. So it's real easy if you are an admin here in Business Manager and you're an admin on the page, Facebook page you're trying to migrate in, very easy. There are other more difficult circumstances, but ultimately you want to migrate in all of your Facebook pages here underneath your Facebook Business Manager, I guess Meta Business Manager, which will translate into Meta Business Suite. So eventually you want to migrate them all in here. Double check the people. So what you're going to notice here on the people is this is kind of the opposite view of over here. Here you look at a person and you can see all the assets that are assigned to them. Here you can look at a page and see all the people that are assigned to it. So like here's all the people that are assigned, but you're going to notice some things, and we're working on this with this particular client, that there's a couple people here who are not in the business account. These are people who you set up as users of the page at the page level, and maybe it was prior to even bringing in to the business manager account. You ultimately want to get these people in underneath your business manager, underneath people, and then assign them the assets, and stop managing users out at the page level. Try to manage all users if you can here within Business Manager and assign them the right assets. So like these 3 users, we're working on migrating them into Business Manager, inviting them, and then assigning them the right accounts to work with. Same thing with partners. Here you could go in and you could assign a partner to this particular page, a third-party company, a different Business Manager account. In other words, you could assign a partner to that if you want to. I wanted to just skip down a little bit and jump down to Instagram accounts over here. I want to make sure that all of you are getting your Instagram accounts also linked in through the Facebook/Meta Business Manager. And you can simply do that here by just adding the appropriate Instagram account And when you do that, you will need to log in. You'll need to make sure you have the right login credentials and password. And usually Instagram accounts, you've got a two-factor authentication. So you've got to make sure the person with the mobile phone is there to give you the codes to link you over. But ultimately, you want to bring in all of your Instagram accounts into Facebook/Meta Business Manager as well. This is really important when you're going to do ad campaigns, and you want to have ad campaigns where you have the ad going out underneath your Facebook page, underneath your linked Instagram account for the same ad. So this is important. There's other reasons behind it as well. You can also now begin to manage who can access and do what with these Instagram pages on here. And same thing with the partners. You can assign partners and do things like that. Assets means you could connect these Instagram accounts with like ad accounts or things like that. You can connect other pieces within Meta Business Manager here. Bring it in. When you do bring it in, once you've linked it and you click on it, I don't have a screenshot of that, you'll see it says, hey, you need to log in to access all the full tools. So even though you've linked it once, you then need to go in through Facebook Business Manager here, and you need to log in. There'll be a little dialog box up here to help you log in, and you'll have to re-log in to your Instagram account right here. And once you've done that, you have access to all the tools that are available to you to manage your Instagram account. So make sure you migrate them all underneath Meta / Facebook Business Manager, and then make sure you log into them within Facebook Business Manager to have access to all the various tools and all the permissions and everything that you're going to need there. I'm not going to bother with WhatsApp account. Not a ton of publishers are using WhatsApp. If you are, you can do the same thing and link those in here. I do want to talk about ad accounts though. So now ad accounts. I worked with one publisher where they actually had, I think it was 1, 2, 3, at a minimum of 3, maybe 4, 3 separate ad accounts for every single brand, every single publication. It was a publisher who had, I think, 7 different publications, and each publication had a separate ad account. There were 21 different ad accounts within this. That is, I mean, you can get that granular if you want to, but it is incredibly cumbersome to manage that many ad accounts. For most publishers, you can get away with just one ad account. Just one ad account, probably tied to the company, and then assign the people to it. Then you're managing just that one ad account. Where are there times, and then with the right naming conventions in the ad account, you can separate things out by brand if you want to. Where it does make sense to use more than one ad account, there are times when you may want to really break out the spend by publication with like a separate credit card, for example. If you need to do that, then you probably want to have a different ad account for each brand that's managing it separately. You can do that if you need to do that. For most publishers, they don't need to, and they can literally just run a report once a month and break out the spend just using the naming conventions, because we always use a short name of the publication as the first part of the name in the campaign. But if you need to have it separate, you can do it. Just realize the more you break this out, the more complicated the management is. The other time I've seen this happen that it's been useful has been, let's say there was a whole account, business manager account for third-party assets. And when I did with third-party assets and we were running lots of ads, so this was almost acting like an agency running ads for multiple clients. They would have a different ad account for each client in there, so they could keep that very, very separate for billing purposes. That's really the only time I would see that necessary. But even then, I know a lot of publishers who will manage not only their own internal ads, but ads like co-branded social media ads or other kinds of boosted ads and things like that within the single ad account. So heads up on that. I'm not going to go into the ad account and all the settings on that. It's just too much to cover here today. But typically that's how I like to set up ad accounts, is one per business manager account, unless there's a specific need to break it out further than that. I'm going to skip by some of this other stuff like business asset groups. This is where I could like folders, if you would. I could like assign a Facebook page, an ad account, a pixel, and an Instagram account all into kind of one group for one section. Usually don't need to do that if you got it set up right. Catalogs I'm going to skip unless you are something, I work with one publisher who's actually a book publisher, and they have a pretty sizable catalog of 2,000 or so different books that we push into Facebook Business Manager. If you don't have that kind of thing, you don't need to worry too much about catalogs. Pixels. Let's talk about pixels. Pixels are kind of like ad accounts in that you don't need to really have more than one pixel per se. You could have a single pixel service multiple publications, and most publishers I work with actually do that, again, just to keep things simple. There are, again, times when you might want to break out and have different pixels. Perhaps you have one for your owned media and you have a separate one where you're acting as an agency for your clients. Cool, you can do that. Even in this, when you have a single pixel here and you're doing tracking in the events manager, you can actually break down events that are happening by domain. So you don't really need to have a separate pixel for every website that you have. Usually I recommend one pixel per website, and then that pixel is utilized by the ad account even for tracking of things like landing page views or event conversions, things like that. So again, I typically recommend a single pixel for most publishers. There are some exceptions, but that's definitely the exception rather than the rule. All right, let's move on here. I want to talk to you guys about Facebook pixel load time. So as you know, Google is now using something called Core Web Vitals as a ranking factor. It's not the primary ranking factor, but kind of all things being equal, Google wants to present results that from websites that are fast, secure, stable, mobile friendly. And speed is a big issue with this. The Facebook pixel, now the Meta pixel, can actually add a lot of time to every page view that you on your site. So Facebook actually says, hey, place the pixel code in the head section of the page, of the HTML block behind the page. When you do that, I've seen it actually add, and there's some other information out there, it can add about 1.5 seconds to your load time of your page. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. A better way to do this that's actually relatively easy to implement is if you're using Google Tag Manager. If you use Google Tag Manager, you can put the Facebook pixel and load the Facebook pixel in through Google Tag Manager rather than directly onto the site. That actually does help improve the speed a bit. There are a few other issues, though, when it comes to certain kinds of caching you may want to do and other things that may happen. There's some real technical stuff in there, but it is usually better than just placing the Facebook pixel directly into the head section. The best way to do it was from this Joseph Pinder that I found out here. Great blog. Again, this link I'll put into the archive when it's put on our website on Thursday. But he recommends that you place the pixel just before the closing body tags at the very end, and that you delay pixel execution by 3 seconds. Now, there's things you can do. There's tools for websites where you can delay JavaScript by certain times, but he actually even gives, I think if I can bring this up here real quick, he actually even brings how to fix it securely, all this kind of good stuff. So he actually comes down to here and modifies the entire pixel code and just does all the delaying by everything. It's just, this guy's brilliant. So I don't want to get too technical with this here, but this is Joseph Pinder. I'm a big fan of what he does. Check that out. You want to speed up your pages by 1.5 seconds? Do this. This alone can help speed up your page load times. All right, moving along. I want to go down in here some of the things that a lot of publishers don't do. Brand safety, domains. I strongly recommend you go through and you verify all of the domains that you're going to be using for when you do posts and you're referring to a domain. It also helps when you're doing ads and you're doing domains off of those ads. So you can see this one is currently verified. The other three here we're in the process, and literally when you click on it, it's just a little meta tag, and all you have to do is have your dev team add that meta tag to your website, and then once you do that, you can come in here, you can verify the domain, and once it's verified, you can then remove the meta tag, so it's gone. But this is, you definitely want to verify all of these domains on here. Then there's other things like domain access. You can actually restrict people who are linking over to your domain. I usually don't have to worry about that. It's more of, I want all these domains to be verified for posting purposes, for ad purposes, and as you'll see here in a minute, for registering as a news organization. It's critical for that. So that's domains. I then want to go into business info. So you scroll further down underneath domains, you've got your business info. And I can't tell you how many publishers I tell you when I go into the business info, this is not even filled out. So you definitely want to fill it out. You want to sign a primary page for the account. So, if you're a brand that has multiple brands, you may want to have a Facebook page specifically for your business, your high-level business, even if you're not posting to it that often. But then you want to put in all your legal information. I blacked out or whited out the tax ID information here. You want to get all this information and go through the process, and then you can get the verified. You are a verified business within Facebook. There's a lot of reasons behind wanting to verify this. One of the reasons is it gives Facebook a stronger sense of your credibility. I don't want to necessarily say it's going to increase the visibility of your posts. However, I have heard from about 3 different publishers that verifying your business has actually seen them get increased reach on their organic posts. But you'll definitely want to do this also if we're going to do the next step, which is going to be to create a news page. So go through the process, upload this information, and this will be, it's something you absolutely want to do to just get it verified. Let's talk about Facebook news for a second. This is going to be our next step. If you haven't seen it on Facebook, you'll have seen there is this news section, and you'll see, well, how are they getting these news stories out here? These guys are registered as Facebook news providers, and then they're actually, by the way, providing content in the instant articles format. But there's some benefits to Facebook news. First of all, if you are qualified, you're now exempt from the requirements of ads that cover social, election, and political issues. If you're not aware, if you're going to do, this is especially important for news publishers, for regional business publishers, any kind of regional publisher, trade journals and consumer enthusiast pubs, it's not as big of a deal. But any kind of social, election, or political ad that you may want to run, you have to go through a bunch of hoops. If you're a registered news organization, you don't have to go through those hoops. So it just streamlines the process. There's journalist protection. Your journalist can actually register, and it helps protect anybody from impersonating them and other things like that. You might want to check that out. And it sets the stage for you to be included in the Facebook news feed. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to show up in the news feed. You've still got to get the articles in through the Facebook instant articles method, and you've also got to they've got to rank well, right? Just like any other search optimization, they've got to be able to rank well. But if you don't register for Facebook news, there's absolutely no way you can get into the Facebook news feed with that. So there's a link out here to the Facebook meta journalism project out here, talking about registering your news page. I will put that link when we archive this. And it talks about exactly, here's how you do it. This is why we verified our business, by the way. This is why we verified the website domains, one of the reasons why. And then we talk about other things. We can also give Meta access to any paywalled content which is becoming more and more of an issue for a lot of the publishers I work with. So it talks about all the issues that are here and why you should do it, but I strongly recommend that you do register if you are more of a news. Now, B2B trade journals, most of what you're publishing is news. Regional business publishers, most of what you're publishing is news. I have seen some city regional magazines be able to qualify for news as well, because you're covering that. Consumer enthusiast, like if you're a hobbyist magazine or like jazz or knitting or model railroading, is typically sometimes a little harder to get into this because it's not really necessarily news. It's more general information, interest information. So it's a little harder. But if you're a newspaper, a regional business publication, a trade journal, it's a slam dunk. CRMA pubs, sort of there, and others that are on there as well. So let me go to the news page registration. You just go here to underneath registrations to news pages. I'm kind of doing these out of order on the left-hand side here, but because I'm doing it in the order you really should do them as you're setting this up. But once you do this, you can come here and you can see these guys are registered as a news page. And we've got the website, we've verified the domain, we've verified the business, we've given them the access to get behind the paywall. And then further on down, they actually published information about their fact-checking and ethics and corrections policies. And actually, I'll put the link to this example when we post this out there. You also need to upload your logos here in different formats. You'll need a white logo, a black logo, a normal logo that you'll want to put in there because for use in different circumstances within the app. But you get all that set up and implemented, and then you will be accepted as a registered news page within Facebook with the benefits that come along with that. I do want to talk about a couple other little things here. Leads access. If you're doing Facebook lead forms, there's a couple ways you can access the registrations that people do when they fill out those lead forms. One is you literally can come in here and we can assign people to go in and download leads out of Facebook Business Manager to then upload them to our email system, for example. The other way is you can use, there's a couple of email marketing automation systems that have integration directly with Facebook ads and Facebook lead ads and can bring those directly in. HubSpot, for example, can bring lead ads directly in without having to manually go in and download them. And if you don't have that, you can also use a tool like Zapier. So if someone fills out a lead ad, they submit it, that lead can automatically go into your email marketing automation system. But if you don't have any of those kind of automated integrations, you can just come in here and download those leads, and this helps you manage that. Finally, I want to talk about the security center here. This is going to help us say, hey, we have two-factor authentication enabled, and we've got everybody who's currently in this particular business is set up with two-factor. We've verified our business so that Facebook has a better sense of who we are, more trust in us as an organization. And we've got a backup admin. We don't have just one admin. We have at least one other admin who can get into this if for some reason I get locked out or the main admin gets locked out. You always want a backup admin in place. So that's it. That's the basics of setting up Facebook Business Manager. Meta Business Suite, we're going to get to that when it's a little more prime time. In further sessions, we're going to talk more about things we might want to do in ads and how we want to set that up, and conversions, how we want to set that up. We want to talk more about what's the best way to set up a Facebook page to get better engagement and display yourself to your end users, all that kind of stuff. That's probably going to be other sessions because this session is just about over. I do want to answer a question that came through, one from Jane. When adding users, do you need to send them an invite to the email they sign into their personal Facebook account? No. If you want to invite somebody from Facebook Business Manager, you can literally just add the person and put in their business email. The invite will go to the business email of that person. They can then accept the invite, When they come in, they'll then be asked to log into Facebook. Now, when they log into Facebook, they will log in using their personal Facebook login. And once they authenticate, they'll then be in Facebook Business Manager, but they'll be in Facebook Business Manager underneath the email that you sent them, which is typically the business email. So it's kind of weird. The only thing you have to use your personal Facebook account for is just to log into Facebook. Once you've done that, you're fine. There's no need beyond that. Okay. Well, tons going on here. We'll have lots more going on. I'm excited to resume these sessions. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. And I'm excited to hear back from you on how your business manager setup is going. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.